Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go through it. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive deeper into all of these sectors looking for potential investment opportunities. We do have a discount coupon code. Discount is the coupon code if you're interested. So let's dive in. Let's take a look, see what's going on today. Just an FYI, the FOMC did at that meeting, they did lower interest rates 0.25 basis points. And this is what followed. A very big move in the dollar and a very big move in interest rates today. Absolute stunning moves for the size of the dollar increase and the percent gains in a lot of the interest rates going up. So I thought they were cutting rates. Yeah, I don't think the market agrees with what they're doing, which is what the market is showing us right here. The dollar is up over 1% today, and it is breaking out of this region, going higher for a stronger dollar there. We also saw interest rates, the 2-year yield up 2.64%. Big monster day here. And that's what was tough. And this market is a weird market. So generally when you get a slowdown in the market, yields drop. But Powell is lowering rates, and the 2-year went up 2.6%. Something is not aligning here. The 10-year up 2.7 and breaking out of its trend line here to go higher. And then the 30-year yield is also starting to break to the upside for 1.7% increase today, breaking to the upside through that downtrend line. This is an interesting dynamic here. When you go back and you look at history, during these recessions that we have, even in the 1970s, interest rates went down during those slow periods. And this is the 10-year here. So when we had those big slowdowns, like this was a recession here, this was another recession here, when rates fell. Then we went to the ultimate peak of a shoulder, head, shoulder. And then we went to a bottom here of a shoulder, head, shoulder. So not even in the 70s, when people talked about stagflation, I don't think we ever had stagflation in the terms that actually have it. We had boom and bust cycles during this section. The waves were caused by the boom and busts in the real estate market, and we had multiple boom bust movements in a increasing interest rate environment. Here, if we do have a slowdown in the market, I mean, interest rates are just ripping. This is something that's different if we do have a slowdown, and we are just busting higher. TYX TNX ratio, big inversion of this, where the yield curve inverted, where the 10-year went up more than the 30-year. And then TLT bond prices selling off dramatically. Now, a lot of people in the markets are expecting rates to drop, and that's just not what we're seeing in what the market is telling us. So bonds are heading lower here, and they've broken through that support region, and we could see a dramatic decline in bond prices here, and this is going to get interesting. The 2 and 10, pretty flat, pretty flat. We've got gold down $53 an ounce, and it's breaking through its trend line. And I know it's a pretty crazy day today with that release. And I know a lot of those releases, they hit gold and a lot of these commodities pretty hard. I don't think we've had an FOMC release where gold went way up. I'd be curious to see if anybody can run the data on that, or maybe I'll try to do AI later or something and try to do that. Silver down 3.1%. Anything in dollars, guys, the dollar was a wrecking ball today. Big selling pressure in gold, big selling pressure in silver. Platinum also getting sold off 2%. Palladium down $31, right at that support region. I bet you this support region will hold. But we're right back to that support region that I was talking about. GDX, these are all going to be sold off. Like I said, um, this is the projected move here, something like that, back to the support region is where I think we're going to go. So that's selling off. GDXJ sold off. SILJ also selling off 5.5%. Pretty big move. And we broke out a couple of days ago to the downside of this little channel there. So that momentum is to the downside still. XAU to gold ratio, real cheap level. We're at this crossroads of support. And we'll see what happens. I mean, today was kind of an event that occurred, so to speak. And the dollar just ripping along with yields. But we're back to support here for this ratio of gold and silver mining companies in relationship to gold. Crude oil didn't even really blink an eye today. I mean, we were up earlier and it did finish lower, but this still looks very excellently positioned. And what we've seen in history is crude oil and rates go up together. Now, here's the question that I have. Is that relationship broken or is it still intact? And I'll show you, I'll put the US 10-year on top of this. And you can see recently, right when they had these, basically just before the elections, we saw a divergence occur between oil and interest rates. If you look before that, the relationship is very, very similar. Generally, oil goes up and then interest rates follows that. And then you can see when we go down, interest rates go down, and they kind of mirror each other to some degree. But what we have here is this big divergence where oil went down and interest rates are just ripping to the upside. So there's that divergence there, and it's kind of an interesting one, and I'm going to continue to watch it and see what occurs. But oil still looks good to go higher. That still looks good to go higher. TTF down a little bit today. It's back to this support area of this trend line that I've got going in there. It looks okay, but we did get some selling pressure there. Natural gas ended up 3% today in the sea of red. So that still looks okay to try to work its way on up, or perhaps chop sideways a little bit. We do have some selling pressure here and here where we might chop sideways. We've got XOP, yeah, you know me, getting sold off pretty hard today. This is kind of a weird setup we got going on here. So we're getting a lot of selling pressure in XOP. We've got a trend line here. We broke this down, but we had all this big buying pressure, which pushed us back up. And then all of a sudden, this is in weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, the past 4 weeks, including this week, it's just been a ton of selling pressure right on a breakout. It's almost like they don't want this thing to break out. So we'll see what occurs here. We might have to loop back around or something like that. But I'm still very bullish on energy, especially with interest rates going up. It's going to put some pressure, perhaps, maybe, we'll see, on gold. And then your ratio of oil is going to start to outperform gold. So, yeah, we'll see what happens here over the next week or two. And if this turns upward or if we continue to sell off, this is a big down selling pressure down day. And perhaps the overall market is going to have an impact because it looks like we're getting selling pressure in S&P 500, NASDAQ. I mean, it sold off pretty bad here. OIH also selling off 3.7%, looking pretty nasty from this point forward. Looking pretty strong selling pressure the past few weeks. Newcastle coal futures down slightly, still above support and still below some resistance, but it looks like it's slowing down here a little bit. Sprott-Physical Uranium Trust down slightly, and is actually a pretty good day compared to the rest of the market, is what I'll say. But we still have this gigantic flag pattern. I do think it's going to break higher with time. Uranium futures pricing down slightly, still within the falling wedge. URA down 3.17%. Now, the equities of everything sold off today across the board. Strong dollar, anything that is dollar or interest rate sensitive obviously got sold off decently. But URA down 3.17, URNM down about 3%, and then URNJ also down about 3%. This is actually not a bad day compared to some of those other sectors. Copper down. It looks like it's trying to break down here. Are we going to go into a potential recession? What is going on here? This is more interest rate sensitive, and interest rates are just ripping. So I'm sure that had an impact with the dollar and interest rates going on up. COPX down 3.9, and that looks to be close to a pattern that's been fulfilled. You kind of get like this size of a pattern there. You put it here, and that's about what the projection would be. So we'll see if we get some support in the general area that we're at for COPX. Iron ore holding on, surprisingly down 3.36. Still looks okay for iron ore. It's still holding on. Aluminum down slightly too, down 0.33%. Still in this channel going sideways. Nickel down about 1%. Looks a little bit weaker. And we are putting a bearish engulfing on this where we could make another leg lower. Moo down 3%, but everything sold off, guys. I mean, everything sold off. So I don't know if this is a legit candlestick or not. We'll have to wait and see what this is. We're right at support. Emerging markets sold 2.33% down. And this deals with the strong dollar here. We had a nice big move, and here I'll put the dollar on here underneath it. And that directs money flows. So when this dollar started to take off here, that's when emerging markets pull back. So this is all currency related stuff. And then the currency moving is going to impact money flows. KRE down 5%. I think that's where the gap was filled, isn't it? I had a gap there. Yep, there's that gap being filled today. I just put that thinking we would get a gap fill. It is a pretty strong, I mean, everything sold off though today. Everything has big candlesticks like that. That's down 5% today. TAN down 3%, selling off. That looks pretty ugly. Lithium sold off 3.4%. And again, we'll see, it's right on support. We'll see if support holds here or not, or if there's further selling pressure. Looking at REMX, that sold off 2.9. There's some downside pressure there. Right at support here. We'll see what the support holds. We've got Baltic Dry Index down about 1.7%. Momentum still to the downside. XHB down 4.41%, and this does look like it wants to head lower. So this looks pretty rough. We also see on at least the weekly here, kind of some big selling pressure candlesticks there, came back up, put a wick in there, and then we broke through. And I put the lines like this coming on up, and we've broken out of that increasing wedge, which is very similar to what's coming up here on these other ones. Russell 2000 down 4.4%. Pretty big selling pressure day to day. There it is. Boom. SPX down 3%. Now, this one's interesting here. It's interesting because if I were to guess, here's a top. This looks like a top, but this has been raised up for potential elections. Squeeze into a corner, squeeze into a corner. Look at the selling pressure here. That is a monster down candlestick, down 3%. Now, how legit is this selling pressure? What is the bounce going to look like? That's what we're going to have to monitor here. But I do think this could go that way. That's what I've been watching. Tie in basically interest rates going up, and it's gonna be a stiff headwind if interest rates continue to head higher. It's gonna put pressure on this stuff to go down. NASDAQ, big selling pressure day to day, about 3.6% down. That's kind of an interesting big selling pressure candlestick. SMCI down 4.6%, doing some basing. NVIDIA down 1% as well. We're getting a lot of red candlesticks over here, and that does look like we could potentially head lower. And keep in mind, too, a lot of these insiders have been dumping shares. Buffett, Bezos, all those guys, Gates, they're all out of the market. So we very well could see a move lower. BTC, USD down about 4.9%. Is this the beginning of a turn? I don't know if I go that far. We'll have to wait and see what kind of follow through there is. Ethereum's also down 5%, some strong selling pressure there, but it is still sitting on top of good support. MicroStrategy selling off pretty hard, 9.5%. Whenever I see these big selling pressure candlesticks, my ears perk up like, what's going on here? That's usually major distribution, major. And that gets me aware of a potential downward move, but we'll see. We'll see what the follow through looks like. And then the VIX spiking today. There's your VIX spike. We were talking about that yesterday, that we were still sitting on top of all this. And there's your VIX spike. Crazy the spike today. And we were sitting on top of this. We broke out, spiked, retest, and this could spike higher. We could see more. We could see further selling pressure. We'll see in the S&P 500, but it definitely does not look like a strong chart to me. But that's what I've got for today, guys. So give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website. Discount coupon code is still active. And that's all I've got for today. So we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.